from humble beginnings to learning from your failures to becoming a great success. What is your success story? Chip Baker, The Success Chronicles.
What's your definition of success?
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Chip Baker coming to you with another episode of the Success Chronicles. And for this episode, I'm in Newton, Texas, hanging out with Coach W.T. Johnston. Great man, has done some amazing things, in a great place. And we're just going to talk a little bit today. If you could, Coach, talk to us about where you're from, how many years you've been in the profession, and just some things that you guys have been able to accomplish.
I grew up in several different places. When I was young, we moved to Hemphill, Texas, and that was my first introduction into sports, football and baseball and everything, basketball. And we moved to Hot Springs, Arkansas, where I went to high school, and I played for a guy named Joe Reese.
Okay.
He had played for the Green Bay Packers before they had ever had a Super Bowl. So it was just called the World Championship. And he was a big influence in how things. And I played for about 4 or 5 guys that coached played in the NFL at the time, and that was a good deal. And they had a lot of credibility when they talked to you and stuff like that. It was a good deal.
That was a pretty good experience for you.
Yeah. Most kids, you don't have that kind of experience being around those kind of guys, but that was a special deal.
And my next question is, who has been some of the most influential people in your life?
As far as my life, my father was probably the most influential person. Probably my best friend. And as far as coaching, I've coached for 2 really good coaches, 3 really good coaches. Rodney Russell gave my first job at Linden. I'll never be able to tell him I appreciated giving my first job,
Yes, sir.
taking a chance on me. I worked for a guy in Louisiana. I coached in Alexander, Louisiana for 2 years for a guy named Brownie Parmalee. And when he took the job, he was the winningest coach in the state of Arkansas. And he came to Louisiana, and I went with him. And that cat was
The real deal.
he was real deal. He was very good. But the most influential person I've ever been around is Coach Barbay here at Newton. Coach Barbay, he was almost a second father to you. X and O was the best. Way up beyond his time. But he also taught a lot more than X and O's, not just to the kids, but to the coaches. If you were around him for very long, you learned a lot more than X and O's from him.
Right.
He taught you how to treat people, how to treat kids. It's just unbelievable. I've been very, very fortunate who I've been around in coaching. I always tell people, these young guys, if you're at a place and the guy that you're working for is not making you better, not teaching you nothing, you need to go somewhere else. Especially when you're a young coach, you've got to get around good people. That's the only way you learn.
That's invaluable. You talk about that. Being in a good situation, being around good people, you don't really appreciate that until you're not in that situation.
That's right. I've been very fortunate. The worst year I've ever had experience coaching is 6-4. That's the worst I've ever been, and since I've been coaching. And I was at a place not far from here. I'd left for a year, and we were 6-4, and everybody thought that was good. And I knew I had to get out of there. I was a young kid. I was 26. I was the offensive coordinator at 4A school. I thought that was a big deal, and I came back to Newton as offensive line coach. Where 6-4 was not going to be accepted.
That's it. That's it. And you talk about 6-4. I know you've had lots of success. If you could kind of talk about some of the successes you guys have had. I was out at the stadium, and just looking at some of the plaques, and like you said, Coach Barbay, pictures and all that stuff, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. One thing, he won over 300 games here at Newton. He was the head coach here for 37 years.
Wow. And
that just doesn't happen very much.
No, sir. No.
The thing about Newton, there's only been 3 head coaches here since 1968, and I'm the 3rd one. And that just doesn't happen. But we played. We won 4 state championships. We played in 6 here at Newton. Had a chance to play in a bunch more.
Right.
Didn't get a break. But we've been there close. I can't tell you how many times, but we won 4 of them, which is a good deal. We played a lot of semifinals and quarterfinals games through the years. I think since in the 1980s, there's only been 1 year we hadn't made the playoffs here. It was in 1993.
Wow.
And that was the year I was at another place and we were 6-4.
6-4.
Yeah. So it's been special. We've been in the playoffs. One thing I can say, and I hope it doesn't change, we've never lost a first round playoff game. All the way back since the 80s. Wow. We've never lost a first round playoff game. We've always made at least to the second round, which is a big accomplishment. Just coaching for Coach Barbie, I think he ended up with 317 wins. And I was very fortunate to be here for a lot of those, for 20 years coached with him. So there was a lot of games, a lot of wins in those years that I got to see.
Right. And how many years have you been in the profession?
Since 1988, right at 30 years.
30 years.
Mm-hmm. Right at 30 years. And it doesn't seem like it's been that long. It seems like I just started. It's unbelievable how fast it's went.
I think that's because you've had a lot of fun.
Yeah. There hasn't been any lean times, and I don't know how I can handle it. I've been here at Newton since 1991. I've left once or twice. I left and went to Kirbyville with my best friend, Jack Alvarez, and we were fortunate enough to go to the state championship there, and very fortunate. And that was another guy. Even though me and Jack were best friends and the same age, I learned a lot of stuff from him too. And we played ball together at Henderson State, and we've been best friends ever since then. So he's been an influence too,
right,
on me, and I think I've been a little bit of influence on him.
Yes, sir.
And he's a very good coach. He's the head coach at Dennis, and they won it in 14. The night before we got beat in 14, and the next night he won it on the last play of the game. But Jack's a heck of a coach, and a real good man.
You said something, Coach, that made me really think about, maybe kind of reflect on life a little bit. You talked about how, you having your experiences, it hadn't been lean years. You've always been around some pretty good people that you've learned from. Isn't it good when you're in a situation where you're around people that you can learn from? It's refreshing, and just like you said, I agree with that. If you're not learning, I think you're going backwards.
That's right.
And so I think it reflects, the thing that you've been able to experience.
Yeah. As a young coach, you've got to get with somebody that you're going to learn from. Not just learn X and O's,
Right.
but learn how to treat kids and learn how to deal with kids. That's one thing Coach Barbie always taught me. All they want is somebody to be fair to them.
Mm-hmm.
And you can be as hard on them as you want if they think you're fair to them and you like them and you care about them.
Right.
And that's the way these kids here are at Newton. We coach them hard. I mean, we discipline them hard, but there's never a problem because they know we like them and they know we're fair with them. I love these kids at Newton. That's why I stayed here. It's a different world as far as the kids. We don't have much. Our kids don't have much. We don't have great facilities, but they're easy to please.
Right.
They're easy to please. They don't complain about what we don't have. They're appreciative of everything they do have.
Yes, sir.
That's the key. That's the key. They appreciate what you do for them. A lot of places, kids aren't like that. These kids are yes or no. Their kids always have been,
Mm-hmm.
and they're very appreciative of what you do for them. And that means a lot when a kid tells you, "Thank you, coach, for doing this." And it's a different world here. The kids are still back in the 70s, 80s,
Right.
and that's a good thing.
Outside at the practice field, there's a sign out there. I think it says "Earn, not given."
These kids, one thing here, they think when they put that in on their helmet, they're supposed to win.
That's it.
And that's a big thing. I mean, that's a good thing for them to think. But also with that, they got to know everybody wants to beat them.
Mm-hmm.
When people beat us, it looks like they won the Super Bowl. If
For
it's just
sure.
a regular game.
Right.
I mean, we could play a 4A school, and if they beat us, it's like they've won the Super Bowl. And that's what these kids, that's what that means.
Yes.
And just because you put that in on their helmet don't mean you're going to win. But they think it does. But everybody wants to beat us, and I like that.
Right.
I want to be that school where everybody wants to beat you. I wouldn't want to be at a place where you're everybody's homecoming.
No doubt.
I want to be at a place where everybody, if they beat you, that's a feather in their cap.
Yes.
And that's the way I look at it.
It's definitely like that.
Yeah, it is.
Definitely. In order to achieve the success that you guys have achieved, and have the program like you have, and the mindset like you have, there's got to be some fundamental principles that you stick to within your program. But then also, there's some fundamental principles that the kids learn from that help them in life, which is really the big picture. Is teaching them life lessons. What are some of those fundamental principles that you believe in, Coach?
But the most important thing here, and it's been instilled since 1968 when Coach Thompson came.
Yes, sir.
And Coach Barbie came. They came in 1968. Probably the biggest thing that they instilled was discipline.
Yes.
And I don't care where you're at, where you play. If you don't have discipline on your team, you're not going to be very good. You might win some games, but you're not going to win consistently, and you're not going to win a long time that year.
Mm-hmm.
I also think you got to have competition on your team. Competition is the greatest thing there is to me in sports. Now, you got to have it on your team, because if you got a guy that thinks he's got his position, nobody can take his position, he's not going to be as good as he can be.
No doubt.
One thing we've always had here is a lot of competition. Where if somebody screws up or not playing, the next guy's in. And they've always known that. And I think that's a big part of why we won. Those two things right there, I think, are very important. The discipline part, what you learn from football is going to carry you through life. I think it's the greatest sport that teaches a life lesson more than any other sport.
For sure, for sure.
And the things that you learn from that is going to carry on. I don't think you can learn anywhere. I think as coaches, we have a responsibility to teach these young men discipline, hard work,
yes, sir.
Responsibility, because it's not being taught anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's not being taught. And the high school coaches in Texas, and I'm partial because I've been here for 30 years, but I think high school coaches in Texas, it's a special thing. I saw a thing the other day where the most servicemen and women, where they come from. They come from the state of Texas than any other part of the country. And I think that is still from the high school athletics, the high school football, what they're taught. They're taught respect.
Yes.
They're taught responsibility. And I think that comes from a lot from how they're coached and how they're taught in school. I think that's a responsibility we have as coaches to the next generation. You got to understand these guys are fixing to be taking care of us here pretty soon. And then sometimes it's scary. But
that's a good way to look at it.
But that's what's going to happen. How are we going to teach those kids responsibility? How are we going to teach them how to be and how to carry themselves? And I think that's the most important thing. I tell kids all the time, I've known a lot of 40-year-olds that aren't men, but I've known a lot of 15-year-olds that are men. I always tell them age is not determining if you're a man or if you're a man. It's how you carry yourself, how you handle your responsibilities. I've got a lot of kids through the years, 15 years old, that don't have nothing, but they know how to carry themselves. They're responsible for their family.
Right.
That's being a man to me. That's growing up and being a young man. Like I said, I've known a lot of 40-year-olds that weren't men. They couldn't handle the responsibilities. And to me, that's, they're immature.
Mm-hmm.
So age, I've always taught these kids, age is not a factor whether you're a man. It's how you carry yourself.
Right.
And I think that's what we teach them.
What are some of the messages that, as far as you touched on earlier about, messages to coaches, just making sure you're in an environment that you feel they're striving, that's, where you're learning. What are some messages to coaches that you would say, of course, I know that, you being in the business for so long, you have been a great, mentor, teacher, father figure, to lots of people. What are some of the things that, you would say to your coaches?
Well, one thing, when we first start every summer, when we start to work, the first thing I talk to my coaches about, everybody in this room has got to stick together.
Yes, sir.
Because there are going to be people that's going to throw rocks at you. And I always tell them you better be able to stand back to back, see where the rocks are coming. Everybody better take up for yourself. The other thing I always tell them is, guys, our responsibility of these kids are, when they're wrong, we've got to teach them they're wrong. And we've got to show them when they're wrong. I said, that's our responsibility. Don't take up for them when they're wrong.
Right.
But now, when they're right, you take up for them. Because sometimes we're the biggest advocate and the only advocate they have.
Yeah, for sure.
So my thing is, when they're wrong, we've got to teach them they're wrong and discipline when they're wrong.
Right.
But when they're right, I'm their biggest advocate. I'm going to take up for them. I want my guys to take up for them. And that's where I said a while ago, the fairness, they know you care about them, that's where it comes into play. I mean, you can be as hard as you want on a kid if he thinks that you're fair and you care about him.
And that's all we all want.
That's all anybody wants. And I learned that from a long time ago from Coach Barbay. And I think that's really been one of the main differences here at Newton. I used to make fun of Coach Barbay because he coached so many of them's dads that were playing for us. And now I'm doing it. So I coach these guys' dads and I taught their mamas.
Right.
And so that's just carried on. And they know me. And most of the guys we've got coaching here, I've got 4, 5, 6 guys that play for me here. And so they've been through it and they understand it. And it means something to them. And they know to give back to the kids. They're here. They want to win. They want Newton to be very good, but they care about these kids because this is where they came from.
Right. We talked about, over the years and the things that you guys have done, the impact that you've made. At the end of the day, Coach, what do you want your legacy to be?
I want, when I'm gone, I really hadn't thought about that. It's kind of an ego thing to me.
Right.
But one thing I've thought about is, when I'm gone, is to my life live on through these kids. Mm-hmm. What I've taught them, what I've showed them, when I've hugged them, when I've been hard on them.
Right.
For them to remember that and to do the same thing with their kids. One thing I always talk to these kids about, and I said, guys, y'all are going to have kids one day. And they, at that stage, they can't picture that. I said, but you will have kids.
Right.
I said, do you know how you want to be treated right now as you're a kid, when you're a kid? Raise your kids like that. And we have so many people right now, so many kids that are raised by single parents, no parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I always talk to them about that. Do you like the way you're being raised? Do you like the way your situation is? No, coach. I said, well, do better with your kids.
Make it better.
Make it better for your kids.
Right.
And hopefully I've given them an example to raise their kids. And that's the greatest thing. That's the biggest legacy. X and O's and winning.
Right.
I mean, that's, people's going to remember you. You won some games. But,
How'd you make them feel?
Yeah.
How'd you take care of them?
I mean, yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. What did you teach those kids other than about football? Did you teach them to be a good guy? Did you teach them to be responsible? Mm-hmm. One thing about it, they always say, character is what it is when people aren't watching you.
Yes, sir.
That is very true. Very true. Main thing I want to stress to these kids is about raising their family, taking care of their family. And I think when a person does that, the greatest responsibility a person has is his kids. And if they'll take care of their kids and do a good job raising their kids, you're a success. It don't matter how much money you make. If you've done a good job raising your kids, you're a success.
There it is, right there.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Coach, for taking the time out to interview with the Success Chronicles. And I know that the people watching can take something from this and use it to, not just be better in their lives, but use those lessons to help everybody around them. And from a fellow coach as well, thanks for the things that you've done, in the football world, because from the outside, we know that the success that you guys have had, at this place, it's things that you've talked about that's bigger. Mm-hmm. And when you're in it, those things. That's how you have lasting success, by taking care of kids and loving them and being disciplined and doing all of those things.
One thing I think that we have to realize as coaches, this is bigger than we are.
For sure. Without a doubt.
Newton is bigger than me. It's bigger than Coach Johnston. I'm just a part of it. And I've been appreciative to let me be a part of it. When I took this job, Coach Barber had won a ton of games. My only thing in my mind was, don't let it go down.
Don't mess this up.
Don't mess it up. Keep it going and build on it. And I think that's what we've done. But everybody's got to remember, if you don't remember this, you're going to fall. It's not about you.
Right.
It's not about you.
That's it.
It's about the kids. It's about the program. And if you keep that in mind, you're going to be a success. I really believe that.
Well, thank you, Coach.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you guys for joining us in this episode of the Success Chronicles. We'll see you next time. God bless.